TomoNews presents Coral Reefs. Global warming is killing our oceans. A new study predicts that within 15 to 20 years, human-caused deoxygenation will be felt across the world's oceans. With climate change warming seawaters, oxygen levels in the world's oceans are beginning to drop. Surface water with higher temperatures absorb less oxygen. Such surface water is also more buoyant, so oxygen is less likely to make it into deeper water. The resulting conditions are dangerous to marine ecosystems, which depend on oxygen for survival. With the threat already underway, changes in the southern Indian Ocean and parts of the Pacific and Atlantic will be felt as early as 2030. Oceans in eastern Africa, Australia, and Southeast Asia, however, won't feel the impact until the next century. Worsening the effects of deoxygenation is an increase in carbon dioxide, causing oceans to be more acidic and less habitable. Researchers say carbon emissions must be reduced if we want to slow the oxygen loss, but monitoring and understanding where the oxygen levels are dipping and how it's impacting our waters is also key.
Obama to create largest protected ocean in the world. U.S. President Barack Obama announced a plan on Friday to expand a marine national monument to make it the largest protected area in the world. President Obama plans to expand the current 139,800 square miles of a marine national monument near Hawaii to over 582,000 square miles. The protected area is known as the largest seabird gathering site in the world and the home to many endangered animals, such as Hawaiian monk seals, Hawaiian green sea turtles, and black coral. The area also has rich deposits of minerals, including manganese, nickel, zinc, cobalt, and titanium. All commercial fishing and deep-sea mining will be prohibited in the area. The new plan is not without opposition. Longline fishermen argue that under the new restrictions, 60% of federal waters off Hawaii will be closed to fishing.
Beware your fish tank. An entire family nearly died after the world's second deadliest poison leaked into their home during a recent fish tank cleaning. Many home aquariums not only hold exotic fish, but also zoanthid corals, which release a highly toxic substance called palytoxin when provoked. Palytoxin is lethal when ingested or injected into the bloodstream, but can also be dangerous when airborne. Scrubbing zoanthids can trigger them to spew the toxin, which spreads as an aerosol and endangers those who inhale it. Vapors released when the coral is boiled in water or broken may also cause damage. Breathing in the toxin typically causes flu-like symptoms, which may include a high fever, muscle pain, coughing, difficulty breathing, and eye irritation. Experts recommend handling the deadly corals in a well-ventilated space while wearing gloves, eye protection, and face masks. Pets and small children should also be kept away from any water or substance that has come in contact with zoanthids.
Massive coral reef discovered at the mouth of the Amazon River. Scientists never would have expected the Amazon River surging with more runoff and sediment than any other river in the world to hold an ecosystem as fragile as a coral reef. But an international team including scientists from the University of Georgia and the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro found a huge 3,600 square mile reef system just below the Amazon's muddy waters. The 600-mile-long newly discovered coral reef stretches from French Guiana to Maranhão State, Brazil. The reef types include carbonate structures as well as rhodoliths and sponges. The coral reef was divided into 3 sections for the purpose of their study: the northern sector, the central sector, and the southern sector. Each section receives different amounts of sunlight, which causes their ecosystems to differ greatly. While the northern sector contains more sponges, the southern section contains a wider variety of fish and coral. The northern sector is unique in that chemosynthetic microbes help sustain a coral reef by processing minerals and compounds like ammonia and sulfur. According to Gizmodo, this is the first known reef to use chemosynthetic chemicals and minerals to sustain itself rather than photosynthesis. Researchers recorded 73 fish species in the Amazonian reef, the majority of which are carnivorous. Others survive on plankton or sponges. Scientists have said that this discovery is important because the Amazonian reef showcases how tropical reefs may respond to suboptimal conditions, something that many reefs worldwide are beginning to face in light of global warming.
A new way to restore corals. Researchers have found a new way to cheaply and efficiently restore dying corals using a method similar to how farmers scatter seedlings onto a field. With the world's corals deteriorating at an alarming rate and restoration often slow and laborious, a team of scientists has come up with a better approach to sowing corals. The new method involves harvesting coral larvae and planting them on tetrapod-shaped cement substrates. In a few weeks, the larvae will turn into coral polyps, which can be sewn onto the reef. The seeding units don't require manual attachment and only need to be wedged into the reef's crevices. One day, they can be sewn from boats or by underwater drone. 12 months after the sewing, the scientists found at least one coral growing on half the units. They believe the technique can sew 10,000 corals in just 50 working hours, compared to the hundreds or even thousands of hours needed for common restoration methods. The team is currently working to refine each step of their novel sewing approach.
Coral bleaching is killing the Great Barrier Reef. Scientists are warning that vast swaths of Australia's stunningly beautiful Great Barrier Reef may never recover from repeated coral bleaching. The Great Barrier Reef is 2,300 kilometers long and covers an area of more than 344,000 square kilometers. This is similar to the size of Japan. However, studies suggest the reef is under threat from repeated bleaching of its corals, caused by rising sea temperatures. Corals are marine animals that live in compact colonies of tiny, identical individual polyps. Coral polyps produce a limestone skeleton. Layering that takes place over hundreds of years by millions of polyps creates a scaffolding, better known as a reef. Most corals get their food from the microscopic algae that live inside their tissue. The algae convert energy from the sun into food, mostly in the form of sugar. It is the algae that provide coral reefs with their vibrant color. Coral bleaching mainly occurs when a rise in sea temperatures causes the algae to produce toxins. In self-defense, the corals then expel the algae, which exposes their limestone skeleton. Corals can recover if there's a subsequent drop in water temperatures, but without the algae, they risk starving to death. Scientists have warned for decades that burning fossil fuels releases greenhouse gases that warm the oceans and put coral at risk. In turn, that jeopardizes the marine ecosystem, including fish that rely on the reefs to protect them from predators. This could in turn spark a food shortage, because hundreds of millions of people worldwide rely on reef fish as their primary source of protein. In order to reduce ocean temperatures and give bleached reefs a chance to recover, greenhouse gas emissions must be reduced. Greenhouse gas emissions can be cut by reducing meat consumption and using solar and electric energy instead of fossil fuels. So, if we want future generations to enjoy the beauty of the Great Barrier Reef, it seems it really is up to us.
It might soon be a permanent game over for coral reefs. Warming waters are hurting the world's coral reefs almost 5 times more than they did 30 years ago. Scientists looked at bleaching data in 100 coral reefs. They found that the frequency of bleaching from warmer waters increased 5-fold from once every few decades to once every 6 years. Bleaching occurs when the reef reacts to stressful changes in temperature, light, nutrients, and other conditions. This makes the reef eject the symbiotic algae in their tissue and turn pale white. Corals can survive and even recover, but continued bleaching eventually leads to death. According to the National Ocean Service, coral reefs are considered sessile animals, meaning they're fixed to one place. The World Wildlife Fund says they provide almost $30 billion in goods and services every year. They're also important for tourism, coast protection against heavy storms, typhoons, and even tsunamis.
Time to find alternative sun protection. The same sunscreen that's protecting our skin is apparently harming the marine ecosystem. Hawaii lawmakers have passed a bill prohibiting the sale and distribution of sunscreen that contains 2 chemicals known to damage coral reefs. Several popular sunscreen brands have been found to contain oxybenzone and octinoxate, which filter and absorb UV rays. A 2015 study of reefs in Hawaii, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Israel found that the chemicals cause bleaching by eliminating algae and nutrients in the coral. Just 1 drop of sunscreen is reportedly enough to damage delicate reef systems and disrupt the development of marine wildlife. Sunscreen manufacturers and retail and health reps who oppose the ban claim banning the chemicals could leave millions vulnerable to harmful sun exposure. The bill will need to be signed by the governor to pass into legislation. If it does, Hawaii will become the first U.S. state to enact a law of this kind, which will take effect on January 1, 2021.
The approval of a project to dump dredged sediment near the Great Barrier Reef clears the way for the major expansion of a port that would greatly increase coal exports in the region. Australian officials have approved a project to dump millions of cubic meters of dredged mud near the Great Barrier Reef for the expansion of the port at Abbott Point. The expansion could double the amount of ship traffic through the area and increase coal exports by 70 million tons to 120 million tons. At least 3 million cubic meters of sediment would be dumped into the ocean, a pile greater than the Great Pyramid of Giza. The disposal site is located roughly 25 kilometers from the port in an area officials say has only sand, silt, and clay, and no coral reefs or seagrass beds. The Marine Park Authority has imposed restrictions that include no environmental, cultural, or heritage damage to areas beyond 20 kilometers of the disposal site. However, many environmentalists and scientists have fought the plan, fearing that it will still pose a threat to the environment. Do not use these. Earlier this week, Hawaii passed a bill to ban sunscreen containing the common chemicals oxybenzone and octinazate. The bill follows research suggesting sunscreen with such chemicals that don't stick to human skin can hurt coral. Oxybenzone and octinazate can cause genetic damage to coral and other organisms living in the ocean. However, mineral sunscreen that uses zinc oxide or titanium dioxide are still allowed as they block UV rays while remaining environmentally friendly. But how do you know what sunscreen is the mineral kind? Easy. Look for the labels that say naturally sourced and fragrance-free and check the ingredients. In a response to the bill, Hawaii Senator Mike Gabbard said he believes Hawaii is doing the right thing by banning chemical-based sunscreen. He also added the bill will make a huge difference in protecting coral reefs, marine life, and human health.